Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:54 a.m. Standing by to talk to us is Brother Abed Karim. He's from the Al-Imdaad Foundation. Now, just before I came back on air now, I was having an off-air discussion with him, and I asked him to correct something because I was a little confused. Because in the past, when we talked to Brother Abed Karim, it was always about floods in Ladysmith, and I asked him to just make sure that we are talking about the same town. And he said to me that the sad situation is that it is very, very far flung and widespread. It is not only Newcastle. So I can't even begin to think how exhausted these people are, how much of hard work is going in to try and bring relief to the people in the KZN area. Brother Abed Karim from Al-Imdaad Foundation, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and the viewers of Salam Media.
Sad situation indeed. We're still busy trying to get our heads around the earthquake in Syria and obviously in Turkey. It is absolutely devastating, hundreds of thousands of lives. At the end of it all, it will be, the total death toll will be standing at hundreds of thousands because 10 cities in that part of the world has been impacted. And we also know that Al-Imdaad is on the ground in that part of the world as well. But in our own backyards, we're sitting with the situation as well. Tell us about how dire it is. What does it look like, and what's the relief efforts looking like as well?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us an opportunity to talk to yourselves and at the same time to serve humanity at large together as one ummah. Rightfully said that the ummah at large is facing huge challenges, and we have seen the scenario here in Turkey. May Allah ta'ala grant Jannah to all those who pass away and ease to those who are displaced. And of course, all the NGOs that are there that are doing tremendous work in those hard situations, make it easy for them. But coming back to South Africa and more specifically here in KwaZulu-Natal, we have also great challenges that humanity is facing. And if you look at the situation from the Weather Bureau that had a weather outlook warning that was issued on Friday, Saturday, stating that there will be heavy rains and localized flooding. And all disaster management teams throughout all districts in KZN, and for that matter, nationally, because a national weather forecast was given Limpopo, Mpumalanga province, KZN, the northern, Western Cape, all these areas. So let us come back to the situation that had folded out here in Newcastle. On Saturday, the 11th, heavy rains had fallen the night before, obviously, and the river within the town, that flows within the town, had flooded, and the low-lying areas known as Soriaville and those areas had got flooded, and the CBD. So Alhamdulillah, on Saturday, the Al-Imdaad Foundation was activated by the Provincial Disaster Management, of which we sit on the advisory forums, and also from the Amajuba district, where Newcastle is based as a local municipality, and many families were evacuated. To be specific, it was 47 families that were taken to the Fele Hall, which is just outside Newcastle, closer to the old colored area. And these families were all placed in this hall. And the reason being that their homes were all flooded out and they had to be evacuated. But what is very, very important to know here, that the local Muslim community, the Newcastle Muslim Jamaat, and of course the community police forum, the CPF, that consists of all different race groups, were very, very active from the night before. That was set on Friday night. They were doing search and rescue. They went out with rubber dinghies. They went out with their boat and rescued. In fact, from one house, I was told and given an update from Brother Ahmad Randri that it was like 40 plus people were staying in one house. It's unbelievable. And they rescued all these people and brought them into the Fele, hall, and gave them, blankets, mattresses, and so forth. So the community and the Women's Forum, of course, were very active. They finished about, apparently, when they gave us an update, about 1 or 2 in the morning on Friday morning, Saturday morning, rather. So the Al-Imdaad Foundation went in on Saturday, and we were in a JOC meeting, the Joint Operational Command Center. And in there were all the different role players. And as you can see in the visuals that you are posting at now, we had to give out some mattresses which they needed, and some blankets also that were given out because more people had come in. So the situation there was on Saturday night, as I explained, we went out and looked at the whole area. I think the biggest problem here is, and we're finding this in every local municipality, that the storm water drains are a problem, not serviced by the local municipality, not cleaned out, and water cannot get out into, the storm water where it's supposed to go, or they're all blocked. And most of the problem, like you rightfully said earlier on, sister, that Ladysmith had the same problem. On Saturday, we had water already filling up in Ladysmith, but Alhamdulillah, we did not get flooded out this time around. We are thankful to Allah for that. So the Newcastle scenario played out in that way. Then we went to Blow Bosch. There were another 16 people. It's a rural area. In the rural areas, the back feedback that we were getting, and we were told that there were many families whose homes had collapsed because of the lots of rains that had fallen. It was not necessarily flooding, but because of the extensive amount of rain or heavy rains that had fallen. So disaster management teams and of course other NGOs have also played their part. But I must be very, very clear about one thing, that the local Muslim Jamaat played a very, very huge role in getting the families organized. Food was coming in, clothing was coming in. When we were there in Newcastle, we had members from the white community, from the African community, all donating towards this flood relief for the victims. Last night also, we had a call again from Newcastle, and they were mentioning to us that water has risen again. And last night, the latest update I got from Brother Ahmad Randri and Brother Ismail, who are part of the CPF, and they were doing rescue again last night. There were 167 people in the hall. Now, remember, Saturday night, there was only 47. Last night was plus minus 167 people that were again, brought in because more, it was pouring in Newcastle. The rivers got over flooded and the areas got more, water drenched. So many of these victims were brought to the hall again. And this morning, when I gave them a call to say, look, Al-Imdaad Foundation, the disaster response teams are ready to come back again. And they said to us, look, at the hall at the moment, we have about 20 to 30 people that are still there. The rest are all gone to work. So they will monitor the situation this morning, see how things are going. I know for the fact that they told me this morning, the ladies forum, the ladies groups that are going to be feeding those that are in the hall. They have been doing lunch, they have been doing supper and helping out these communities. As I always said in my interviews, I come from a flood town. I personally have been involved in 16 floods. It is not easy to get yourself back to normal and get your life, and your home back to normal with all that unclean water, the daga, the mess, your things are all, waterlogged and so forth. So yes, we make dua that Allah Ta'ala make it easy for the community of Newcastle and bring ease to that community, inshallah.
Inshallah, Amin. So, Brother Abed, let's look at the situation. You mentioned something just now. You said quite a number of people have gone to work, people that were housed in the hall. Isn't the town in a standstill situation? Have they in fact gone to work? Is it business as usual, or is it gone back to work to try and see where and how they can help the employer, clean up and get things started again? That being said, in previous discussions that we've had, whenever there were floods in that part of the country, we know that you guys do amazing work together with, and Muslim community, as always, is right at the forefront. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our efforts, inshallah. But
Amen.
after the floods, after you've given this initial disaster response, what happens in trying to get the families set up? Some of them, most of these families are not insured. They're not going to get back what they've lost. How do we help them further to get a sense of normality back into their lives?
Jazakallah for that excellent question. What happens and what's the way forward? The people are all gone to work. Now, what happens to these families here? I think what we need to understand that the town of Newcastle this morning, according to Brother Ahmad Randri, who I've spoken to and is involved with the other brothers, about 20, 25 of them from the CPF, he said Newcastle is a chaos. He said me to take my child to madrasa this morning. It took him 45 minutes in Newcastle because the bridge that goes over the town there's only two entrances, is flooding over and they have diverted traffic. So I jokingly told him, I think you look like you are in the city now, so enjoy for now. I jokingly just told him that. Having said that, the program day after, it now is a matter of mopping up, clean up. As I talk to you, I'm sitting in Ladysmith. It is cloudy, it is drizzling, and it is always the situation when you are flooded out, you are, praying for the sun to come out to dry your blankets, to dry your clothes, your mattresses, etc., etc. But the rain will still come in a drizzle form. It will be no sun at all, and things are very hard. So from the visuals we saw this morning in Newcastle that were sent to us and the photos, that the water has subsided some part of the CBD, the rank area that we have seen, and it's going to be a matter of mopping up now, getting back to normal and try to get back to business and, like you asked, get back to normal life. Now, the question comes, what happens to those individuals and those businessmen who goods and commodities have been destroyed or have been waterlogged, families' beds have been, wet, etc., etc. So in the latest scenario, what we did was that all the local NGOs got together, especially the Muslim, led by the Muslim NGOs, and we did a profiling. Now, disaster management has got a system. They profile all businesses to understand what was your losses. You write down everything. When you go to all the houses in the wards and profile how many of those houses were flood damaged, what was their need, what is their concerns, all those kind of things. So we know, if, for example, in Newcastle, when we were there, it was about 8 or 10 wards, and Ward 12 was one of them that many of these victims had come from. So when you do the profiling, after that, the community needs to sit down and say, look, we are going to do business, assistance X amount. In the latest scenario, those who were big business, so forth, they gave them 20,000 rand. Those who were in a smaller situation, like the spaza shop, so forth, they gave them about 10,000 rand. There were some that were 5,000 rand. So some kind of financial support was done by the community and the NGOs. If you ask me from government, it never happened in Ladysmith, right? Because the normal story would be that we have no budget, etc., and etc. And by the time that comes about, it'll be another flood will be coming in. So
Absolutely.
I think very importantly to understand here that the NGOs play a very huge role, and I don't want to be a biased here, but the Muslim NGOs are in the forefront, making sure that there's a plan in place, and a plan that must be also actioned as soon as possible to get all those businesses back on track. And as we talk right now, Dundee has a similar situation. I know the Muslim community in Dundee, the Dundee Muslim youth were busy last night, and the brothers there were doing some rescue and so forth. Up till about 1 o'clock morning, I was with them on the phone. One or two brothers were speaking to me, and there's about 17 people in a hall. And I know Jamal Street has been also flooded, and some parts of Dundee. So the scenario there is being monitored, and disaster management has assisted to a point. But we must understand something over here, Sister Juliari, that disaster management capacity is not what it used to be in the past. We work with them throughout the country, and more specifically here in KwaZulu-Natal, that they have limited resources, they have limited, interventions, and that is where we, as the Al-Imdaad Foundation and other NGOs, of course, we all come in and assist out in the community. But remember the rule, government cannot do it alone. We all know that. So that is why we, as the community, we as the Ummah at large, re react and go out and make sure that we can assist in partnership with disaster management, in partnership with other NGOs, and make sure one thing for sure, that people are comfortable and made at ease, more specifically, the children, the elderly, the senior citizen, the ladies, the females. The females have special needs, and that also has to be taken. And I'm so also happy to note that both in Dundee and in Newcastle, that the women's forum were active. I know some of the sisters, they were active till 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday. I looked at the Newcastle group at 1 o'clock. A sister was giving some messages with obviously they were with their mahram and so forth, and they were helping out. So Alhamdulillah, in this way,
Okay.
Dandi,
Marv, we're going to have to leave it there. We need to take the news. We way over time with that, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all efforts, inshallah, and may you guys grow from strength to strength. Thank you indeed for talking to us.
Jazakallah for having Al-Imdaad Foundation. Thank you.